Good afternoon. Members of the Assembly, thank you for the invitation to testify today. My name is Shaleen Tatle. While I'm currently a Cannabis Control Commissioner from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I'm speaking today independently from that role and personally from my experience as a lawyer specializing in marijuana regulations, an entrepreneur, and an advocate for social justice. On September 1st, 2017, I was jointly appointed by the Governor, Treasurer, and Attorney General of Massachusetts to be one member of the Cannabis Control Commission. This independent group of 5 people represents experience in government regulation, business and finance, public health, public safety, and in my case, policy and social justice. Our agency is tasked with implementing and administering the Massachusetts adult use marijuana law. Before my appointment, I co-authored the Massachusetts marijuana legalization referendum passed in 2016 with my colleague Chanel and several others, and I consulted on state and local marijuana policy around the country. As an attorney specializing in cannabis regulations, I have provided regulatory expertise for leading marijuana firms. I was a founding board member of the Minority Cannabis Business Association, where I led the drafting of the first state-level model bill created to give states guidance to implement a process of reinvestment and reconciliation. And for the last 3 years, I was a partner of a cannabis recruiting firm focused on equality and inclusion. I have traveled here from Boston today to speak with you on my own behalf as a longtime activist who is proud to be part of the movement in our state, hoping to make our adult use cannabis industry the most equitable and accessible in the nation. I want to urge you to act now and follow the will of the people of New York, and I want to offer to work with you and share any and all of the resources I've developed toward the implementation of this goal. Voters in our state legalized adult use marijuana in November 2016, following in the footsteps of Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska at the time. Our law, however, included an unprecedented, at the time, mandate that the Cannabis Control Commission actively promote participation by communities disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. I cannot stress enough how important that step was, and it's very clear to me from sitting here today and watching the testimony and your thoughtful feedback and questions that you are very, very well versed in this issue and that it means a lot to you as well. This past summer, legislators in Massachusetts passed an additional law to reinforce and strengthen the original language. These mandates set Massachusetts apart by including the full participation in the marijuana industry by people from communities that have previously been disproportionately harmed by marijuana prohibition as a crucial part of implementing a safe, equitable, and effective cannabis industry. The Commission has put those tenets into action through 2 major programs and as a set of principles that guide and are interwoven into every policy decision the Commission makes. I understand that even for people who agree with these principles in theory, it can be very difficult to translate these concepts into concrete policies. I understand that better than anyone. Therefore, I would like to spend the remainder of my time outlining the specific policies related to equity that can be found in the draft regulations, which were released to the public by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission last month. The first major program is to provide priority review, which we're calling Economic Empowerment Priority Review, to promote more participation from disproportionately harmed communities when we start accepting business license applications this April. This is essentially a head start that will be provided.
When you start? You said when you start?
In April is when we will begin accepting economic empowerment priority license applications. So these will be provided to applicants that demonstrate a combination of ownership by or employment of people from disproportionately harmed communities or people who can show that they have drug convictions. Applicants can also demonstrate in another way that they have past experience promoting economic empowerment in these communities, and they may qualify. The second major program is a social equity program to provide training and technical assistance to certain applicants and licensees namely those who have lived in areas of disproportionate impact or who have drug convictions or have a parent or spouse with a drug conviction. They will receive technical assistance in the following areas: management, recruitment, and employee trainings, accounting and sales forecasting, tax prediction and compliance, legal compliance, business plan creation and operational development, marijuana industry-specific best practices, and assistance with identifying or raising funds or capital. On top of that, the Commission has opted not to specify any capitalization requirements for applicants, recognizing it's extremely difficult to secure capital through traditional sources in this industry, especially in light of the current risky and uncertain environment. Any specific threshold may close the door on the very business owners that the law intends to encourage to get involved. The application fees proposed range from $100 to $600, depending on the license type, and would be waived for equity applicants. These fees are a far cry from other non-refundable application fees that range from tens to even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The fees are kept low intentionally to make this industry more inclusive. In addition to explicit statutory requirements, our state recognizes the overwhelming demands to ensure that people of color, women, veterans, small farmers, and individuals with disabilities have the chance to participate in this newly legalized and potentially lucrative field. The draft regulations thus require all applicants to submit and adhere to a diversity plan to promote racial and gender equity and include veterans and people with disabilities, as well as a plan for how the business will positively affect communities disproportionately impacted by high rates of arrest and incarceration for drug offenses. And both of these requirements are general suitability requirements for all businesses. I want to close by stressing that with marijuana legalization, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be honest and intentional in addressing the past harms conducted by our respective states and all states in the name of the war on drugs. Based on the ACLU report, The War on Marijuana in Black and White, in Massachusetts, Black people are 3.9% more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white people. And I'm sad to say that in Massachusetts, after decriminalization, while the number of arrests went down significantly, that disparity has increased, according to the same report. In New York, Black people are 4.5 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession, and as you are no doubt aware, New York ranked second in the nation for the highest marijuana possession arrests in 2010, according to that same ACLU study. The worst thing we could do right now would be to regress to a time when prohibition and policies like the Rockefeller drug laws took root. I hope you will join me instead in creating the future that most Americans want, an equitable, safely regulated industry with new jobs and tax revenue. Please know I'm here for you as a resource as you move forward. Thank you very much for your time today.